The wind wouldn't stop screaming. It howled through the cabin walls like something alive, pressing against the windows, rattling the latch on the door, whispering in a low, almost human tone between gusts. I'd been up for 2 nights straight trying to finish a chapter of my book, but the storm outside made it feel like the world had ended miles back on the road. The snow had buried my truck, the generator was sputtering, and I was down to the last few logs for the wood stove. Still, it wasn't the storm that scared me. It was the voice that came through the radio. It started 2 nights ago. I'd brought this old shortwave set the owner said came with the place. Said it only picked up local weather channels. Around midnight, while I was half asleep editing, the radio popped on by itself. Static first, then words. My words. It repeated the sentence I'd just typed, stuttering, glitching, but unmistakably my own voice reading it back. He could feel the forest watching him. Watching him breathe, I froze. My laptop was open right in front of me. Same sentence, same phrasing, same tone. I laughed it off at first. Probably some recording interference or the radio picking up a nearby signal. I unplugged it, shoved it under the table, and went to bed. Except I didn't sleep. Because every few minutes I heard it again. A faint whisper under the static, repeating whatever was in my head. Not even what I said out loud. What I was thinking. The next morning I went outside to check the generator. My breath came out in thick white plumes. The air was sharp, clean, cruel. No other cabins for miles. Just an ocean of snow and silent spruce. The tracks I'd made from unloading my gear were half covered already. That's when I noticed new ones, not mine. Not human either. They started near the tree line, long, uneven, too wide for an animal. The prints looked like something dragging itself, half crawling, half walking. They led right up to the cabin wall and stopped. No return prints. No circle back. Just stopped. I crouched, heart hammering. The snow inside the prints hadn't refrozen yet. Whatever made them came here during the night. When I went back inside, the radio was on again. I hadn't touched it. It sat there humming. Faint blue light flickering in the dial like it was breathing. The same static hiss filled the room, but buried under it I could swear I heard someone whispering my name. Alex. Write it down. I stared at it for a long time, not moving. Then the whisper came again, clearer. Closer. Don't look outside. The voice was low. Calm. It sounded exactly like mine. I spun toward the window and froze halfway. Something was pressed against the glass. Not a face exactly. More like an outline, the shape of a head, shoulders, a foggy breath pattern. And in the middle of it, faint fingerprints sliding down the pane. When I finally worked up the nerve to look straight, it was gone. That night, I barricaded the doors, moved the sofa, dragged a table, and jammed a chair under the handle. I even wrote a note in my journal just in case. If someone finds this, it wasn't the storm. Something's here. I left the radio unplugged. Battery out. Wires cut. I even tossed it into the corner. At 2:13 a.m., it came back on. If someone finds this, it was reading my note. It wasn't the storm. My stomach twisted. I lunged across the room and ripped the radio apart. Tubes shattered, wires snapped, but the voice kept going. Soft, steady, like it was speaking directly inside the cabin walls. Something's here. Then silence. By morning, the storm had cleared. Pale light spilled across the snow like frozen milk. I wanted to leave. God, I wanted to, but when I stepped outside, the world was still. No wind, no birds, just quiet, except for one thing. Someone had written words in the snow just behind the cabin. Write it down. The letters were huge, etched deep, like claws had dug them out. I ran back inside and slammed the door. The sound echoed too long, like the cabin was bigger than before. Hollow, endless. That's when I noticed the typewriter. It wasn't mine. I hadn't brought one. It was sitting neatly on the table, black and heavy, a single sheet rolled in. The words on it read, "Keep going." My laptop was still open beside it, my unfinished story glowing on the screen. Except the file name had changed, from cabindraft.docs to cabinlog.youarehere.txt, and beneath my last paragraph, there were new lines I hadn't written. He went outside to see if the footprints had returned. They had. I stared at it, my pulse thudding in my throat. Every hair on my arm stood up. Something inside me, curiosity, fear, or maybe both, made me grab the typewriter. I pressed a single key. It printed perfectly, no ink smudge, no sound delay. Then it printed again. By itself. Don't stop now. I stumbled backward, tripping over a chair. The typewriter kept going, keys slamming faster, harder, until words blurred into black scratches. Write it down, write it down, write it down, then it stopped. The cabin was silent again. The next few hours are a blur. I remember pacing, mumbling to myself, checking the windows every few minutes. I told myself I'd leave at first light, pack up, hike the road, maybe flag a snowmobile from the nearest station. But when I tried to open the door, it wouldn't move. Frozen shut from the outside, I tried the windows and sealed tight. I hit them with a log from the firewood stack, and the glass flexed like rubber but didn't break. That's when I realized it wasn't glass anymore. It was ice. Clear, thick ice coating every window from the inside out. The temperature dropped fast. My breath came out in thick fog. The wood stove flickered weakly, then died, even with new logs inside. And from the radio's broken shell, a faint sound rose again. Static, then whispering, then my voice. He's trapped inside. I don't remember falling asleep, but I must have passed out at some point. When I woke up, it was daytime, or at least lighter. The clock said 10:44 a.m., but outside it was a blur of white. I could barely see where the cabin ended and the snow began. The typewriter was waiting. A new page loaded. Words already there. Open the trapdoor. I hadn't noticed one before. But now near the stove, the wooden floor had a square outline with a metal ring in the middle. My hands shook as I lifted it. A cold breath rushed up from below, damp, metallic like an old basement. The space was pitch dark, with a narrow wooden ladder leading down. I aimed my flashlight, but the beam only went a few feet before disappearing. Then I heard it, typing down there. Slow, deliberate, mechanical typing echoing from under the floor. Every instinct screamed to leave it, but I couldn't. Something pulled at me. Not curiosity exactly, but something deeper. Like it already knew I'd come, I climbed down. Each rung groaned under my weight. The air was freezing. My light flickered once, twice, then went out. The typing stopped, and then a whisper right beside my ear. You're late. I swung my flashlight wildly, catching glimpses of walls, stone, wet, lined with pages. Hundreds of them. My own handwriting. My stories printed and nailed to the walls like wallpaper, and in the center of the room another typewriter, identical to mine, except this one was working. The keys moved, but there was no one sitting there. It was typing a new line. He finally came back. My breath caught. The light trembled, and then the typewriter stopped. The sheet slid out on its own. It was a letter, addressed to me. Alex, you left before you finished. Now finish it. I don't remember how long I stood there. The next thing I knew, I was back upstairs. The trapdoor was gone, floorboards smooth and unbroken. The fire was roaring again, though I never relit it. The laptop was open. The document still waiting. Only now it wasn't called cabinlog.youarehere.txt. It was titled cabinlog.wearehere.txt. And as I stared, new words appeared on the screen, typing themselves in real time. He's still writing this. That was 3 days ago, or maybe longer. I stopped keeping track when the sun stopped rising. The storm never ends now. The snow outside glows faintly like it's lit from underneath. The radio hums all night, even though it's nothing but broken pieces. And sometimes, when I pause too long between sentences, I hear it. My own voice, whispering from inside the walls, urging me to keep going, finish it. Don't stop, write it down, so I do. Because when I stop, the whispers get louder. The cabin shifts, creaks, breathes. And once, just once, I saw someone standing behind me in the reflection of the laptop screen. They looked exactly like me, typing, smiling. And when I turned around, there was no one there, only the sound of keys pressing themselves again. I don't know if anyone will ever find this. Maybe the snow will bury it all. Maybe someone will rent this cabin again, thinking they're just here for the peace and quiet. But if you ever come across a place where the radio hums even when it's off, where the walls whisper your thoughts back at you, leave. Don't write anything down, because once the cabin answers back, it doesn't stop, it just keeps writing, long after you're gone. The first thing you learn driving snowplows in Alaska is that silence means danger. When the wind stops howling, when even the snow seems to hang in the air, that's when something's wrong. That night, it was wrong from the start. I was the only one scheduled for the midnight run on Route 49, the stretch between Talkeetna and Cantwell. The radio said a fresh blizzard was rolling in by dawn, so I wanted to clear the main road before it buried us for days. Just another night, just me, the plow, and the endless white. At least that's what I thought. It was around 1:17 a.m. when I first saw the tracks. Huge, deep impressions in the snow cutting straight across the road. I slowed the plow, squinting into the beam of my headlights. The tracks weren't from any animal I knew. Too big for a bear, too wide for moose. Each print was almost 3 feet long, shaped like a stretched human foot. But the gait was all wrong. It wasn't walking. It was dragging itself. The snow around the prints was disturbed in long lines, like something had been pulling its weight forward with its hands. I radioed it in. Possible animal activity. Route 49, mile marker 32. But all I got back was static, not unusual. Reception out there drops the second you pass through the canyon. But still, I felt that crawl up my neck, the kind that makes you check the mirrors even though you know no one's there. I should have kept driving. Should have just plowed over it and gone on, but I didn't. I stopped. The air outside was sharp enough to cut. My boots sank ankle deep as I followed the trail with my flashlight. The beam glared off the ice, catching small glints. Bits of black ice or maybe something else like tiny shards of glass embedded in the snow. The trail led north, off the road into the trees. Every instinct told me not to go further, but there was something about those prints, the way they pressed deep, like the ground itself was soft under something impossibly heavy. After maybe 20 yards, I noticed something else. The prints were getting clearer. You'd think they'd fade with snowfall, right? But no. The deeper I went, the sharper they got. Every toe mark, every clawed scrape distinct. Like whatever made them was moving just ahead of me. And then they stopped, right in the middle of a frozen clearing. No circle back, no scatter, no crash site, just ended. The last 2 prints were side by side, facing nothing but open snow. I turned slowly in a circle, scanning with the light. No trees broken, no rocks overturned. Just emptiness. That's when I realized something else, and there was no sound. Not even wind. You don't know real silence until you've heard snow fall and then stop. It felt like the world had taken a breath and forgotten to let it out. And then I heard it. A low groan. Deep, heavy, coming from beneath the ice. I stepped back, the crunch of my boots painfully loud. The groan came again, closer this time, almost under my feet. It didn't sound human or animal, more like pressure, ice shifting under something huge. I crouched down, brushing snow off the last set of prints. The ice there was cracked. Small fissures spiderwebbed outward, dark veins in the pale blue surface. Something moved underneath. Just a shadow at first, wide, slow, gliding beneath the ice like it was swimming. Then another beside it, then another. I stumbled back, my boot slipping. The ground flexed under me, a hollow creak echoing through the clearing. And then for a split second I saw it. A face, pale, distorted, pressed against the underside of the ice. Eyes open, mouth wide. I bolted. I didn't stop running until I reached the plow. My lungs burned from the cold, my hands shaking so bad I could barely grab the door handle. I jumped in, slammed it shut and threw it into gear, but the plow didn't move. The tires spun, slipping in place. I looked out the side mirrors and froze. The snow behind me was moving, not blowing, moving, like something was crawling just beneath it, trailing me from the clearing. A ripple under the surface, growing closer, faster. I floored it. The plow lurched forward, tires finally catching. The ripple followed, keeping pace with me even as I hit 30, 40 miles an hour. Every few seconds I'd see it rise, a bulge in the snow beside the road, like something surfacing, and then it vanished, just gone. I didn't breathe again until I hit the next checkpoint, 20 miles down. The station lights were out when I arrived. Generator must have failed again, but there were trucks parked out front, so someone had to be inside. I honked twice. No answer. When I stepped out, the snow crunched differently, hollow, like there wasn't solid ground beneath it. I opened the station door, unlocked. Inside it was dark, cold. No sound except the wind through a cracked window. There were mugs on the counter, half drunk. Coffee still warm, and on the floor by the radio desk, boot prints, but they weren't going toward the door. They were leading away from it. Straight into the wall. The prints just stopped there, no smear, no turn. Like the people just walked into the wall and vanished. That's when I saw the wet marks. Handprints. On the wall, like someone had been pressing against it from the other side. I don't know how long I stood there. It felt like hours. Maybe it was minutes. But eventually I heard something, faint, mechanical. The radio crackled. Back. Don't go outside. Static swallowed the rest, then quieter, like it was coming from inside the room. He's still out there. The voice was my own. The radio wasn't even plugged in. By morning, the storm rolled in. I stayed in that dark little station, engine off, lights dead, the kind of cold that makes your breath freeze in your beard. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that face under the ice. At some point, I heard scraping outside. Soft at first, then rhythmic, like metal against metal. I crept to the window and wiped the frost away. The plow's door was open. The driver's seat was empty. My own tracks leading from it were gone, covered perfectly smooth, like nothing had disturbed the snow since the storm began. Then I saw new prints, huge ones, coming from the road, leading right up to the station door. I grabbed the radio again. It was hissing nonstop, but buried under the static was a voice, clearer now. Don't open it. Don't open it. Then the voice shifted. Lower. Slower, you already did. The doorknob rattled. Once, twice. Then stopped. I waited. Breath held. Until I heard the footsteps receding. Crunch. 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 I dared to look out the window again. The prints led away into the storm back toward the clearing. But here's the part that froze me worse than the cold ever could. There weren't two lines of tracks. Just one. Mine. Like I'd been walking beside myself the whole time. I left the station at dawn. I don't remember starting the plow or driving or even making it back to town. But I must have, because I woke up parked in front of the maintenance garage, engine dead, windshield coated in frost. The others found me still sitting there, staring out into nothing. They told me the radio had been silent all night. The station I'd called from hadn't been staffed in years. Closed after a landslide blocked the route. They checked the coordinates. The place I said I'd stop doesn't exist anymore. But when they went out there, they found the snowplow tracks I'd made, leading halfway across a frozen lake. And stopping, no return trail. No wreck. Just the plow's headlights still on, half buried in snow, and underneath, faintly visible through the ice, more faces. Sometimes when I drive at night, I still see them. The shapes under the snow, moving with me just out of sight. I've tried to tell myself it was exhaustion, hallucination, the cold playing tricks. But the plow's dash cam didn't freeze, it recorded everything. And at the end of the footage, right before the camera cuts, you can see something in the passenger seat. Hand, frostbitten, gripping the door handle. Mine. Now, I don't clear that route anymore. No one does. Route 49 doesn't exist on the maps now. It's just listed as restricted zone. But the locals still talk about the noises out there, the scraping under the ice, and if you drive far enough north past the last marker, you might see the same thing I did, a trail of prints across the snow, huge, uneven, dragging forward into nothing. And if you follow them long enough, you'll notice what I did too. They don't lead anywhere, they just wait for you to make the next one. The call came in at 6:47 a.m., a vague distress report from a small settlement up north called Talkeetna Ridge. Population, 27. The last transmission was from their mayor, a man named Carl Hensley. His message was short, static-filled, and came through every emergency frequency at once. They're not waking up. Then silence. By the time dispatch forwarded the report, the signal had already stopped. No further calls, no follow-ups. I was part of a small 4-person emergency response team stationed in Denali Borough, the kind of unit that handles snowbound rescues, power outages, and the occasional bear attack. But something about this one felt different. The phrasing. The tone, they're not waking up, not dead, not gone. just not waking. We left within an hour. It took most of the day to reach the site, a thin scar of a road winding through forest and frozen ridges. The snow was heavy even for Alaska standards, thick flakes falling straight down with no wind. Everything felt muffled, like the world was padded in silence. Talkeetna Ridge was supposed to be a small logging village tucked in a narrow valley. But when we arrived, it looked more like a postcard no one had mailed. Cabins still stood neatly along the main strip. Smoke still curled from a few chimneys. The lights in the diner were on. There was even music, faint, tinny, coming from an old jukebox inside, but there wasn't a single person in sight. We parked the snowcat and did a full sweep. First stop, the diner. 3 plates sat on the counter, food half eaten. Steam had frozen on the coffee cups. 1 chair was tipped over, but nothing else seemed disturbed. When I reached the back door, I noticed the snow piled high against it, undisturbed. No prints leading in or out. Outside, my partner Lena was scanning with her thermal camera. She shook her head, nothing. Not even body heat inside the cabins. But they're warm. Like someone was just here. Our medic Troy leaned in. Carbon monoxide leak, maybe? But even he sounded unconvinced. That's when we noticed the writing on the diner's window, drawn with a fingertip from the inside. 1 word, don't we split up to cover more ground? I took the north side, 6 houses, a storage shed, and what looked like a small chapel at the end of the lane. Every cabin was the same, lights on, fires burning low, meals half-cooked. No struggle, no blood, just absence. In one house, a woman's coat hung by the door, keys still in the lock. In another, a bathtub was running, the water overflowing. Frozen solid down the side of the tub, and every clock in every house showed the same time, 11 a.m. The last building I checked was the chapel. The door creaked open easily. Inside, candles flickered along the altar, half-burned and uneven. The air smelled faintly of ozone, like after a lightning strike. There were 27 pews, each one empty except the last. Someone was sitting there, at least that's what I thought. I called out, "Hello? Sir, ma'am?" No movement. I approached slowly, flashlight trembling slightly. When the beam hit the figure, I froze. It wasn't a person. It was a shape. A coat stuffed with snow. Head replaced by a block of ice carved vaguely like a face. Eyes gouged hollow, mouth open in a silent scream. Something was frozen inside the ice, and a small wooden cross, tilted at an angle as if trapped mid-fall. I backed out of that chapel so fast I nearly tripped on the threshold. By dusk, the others had gathered back near the snowcat. Each of us had seen the same things: empty houses, meals left mid-bite, lights still running. But then Lena spoke up. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "They're all facing the same direction." "What?" I asked. "The chairs. The beds, everything. I checked 5 cabins and all of them. Every seat, every bed, all facing north." We pulled out the topographic map. North of the village was nothing but the ridge, a steep climb that led into a closed mining zone from the 80s. Officially condemned after a collapse. The air was colder up there, the kind that sticks to your teeth when you breathe, but we couldn't leave without checking. We hiked up just before nightfall, snow crunching underfoot. The forest was dead silent, no wind, no cracking branches, not even the distant call of a bird. Halfway up the trail, we found more footprints, dozens of them, barefoot. The prints were deep, frozen solid into the snow. Some small like children, some larger, all heading uphill, toward the ridge. No return tracks. The higher we climbed, the thicker the fog became, curling low across the ground like smoke. The temperature dropped another 10 degrees, then the trees thinned, opening into a plateau, and there they were, 27 people. Standing in a circle, they weren't moving. They weren't speaking. They weren't even dressed for the cold, just standing barefoot in the snow, eyes closed, faces tilted up toward the sky. "Holy hell," Troy whispered. We approached slowly, calling out, waving flashlights. No reaction. Their skin looked pale, almost translucent in the beam. But the strangest part? They weren't freezing. No frostbite, no shivering, no breath mist. Just stillness. Carl Hensley, the mayor, stood at the center, hands clasped together, lips moving slightly. I stepped closer. He was whispering something, over and over. "Don't look up. Don't look up. Don't look up." A sound broke the stillness, like a low hum like an electrical current. It grew louder, pulsing through the snow, vibrating in my chest. The ground under us began to glow faintly blue. At first I thought it was a reflection from our lights, but the glow came from beneath, through the ice, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. Lena hissed, "We need to leave." I turned to agree, and that's when Carl opened his eyes. They were pitch black. No iris, no white, just void. He looked straight at me, and for the first time, he stopped whispering. Then every single person in that circle turned their heads, not in perfect unison, toward us up. I followed their gaze. Before I could stop myself, the sky was wrong. The northern lights had been faint earlier, now they were blinding. Bands of green and violet swirling unnaturally fast, moving like liquid instead of light. Shapes formed and dissolved inside them, outlines, like faces pressing through fabric. The hum grew louder, now mixed with a low, thrumming bass that seemed to come from everywhere. Then one of the villagers, a young woman near the edge of the circle, began to rise, not levitate, rise. The snow beneath her fell away, like the ground itself was lifting her. Her body arched backward, mouth open in a silent scream. Her eyes burned bright green. We ran. The trail back was almost invisible in the fog. The hum followed us, distant at first, then closer, almost like it was chasing. At one point I looked back, I don't know why, and saw them following. The villagers, they weren't running. They were just walking, slowly, rhythmically, in the same perfect line, eyes still fixed upward. One of them stumbled, fell, didn't move again. The others stepped around him without breaking stride. When we reached the snowcat, we didn't even check for damage. We piled in, slammed the doors, and floored it. But as we pulled away, the headlights swept over the ridge behind us. The villagers were standing there at the edge of the clearing, watching. We made it 20 miles before the engine died. No warning, no lights, just a dead stop. Troy jumped out to check the generator while Lena tried the radio again. Static, then a faint voice. Not dispatch. You shouldn't have looked. She went pale. Who is this? Static again. Then, we told you not to look up. The sound wasn't coming from the radio anymore. It was coming from outside, from the forest. We locked the doors, killed the lights, sat in the dark. I remember the sound of my heartbeat filling the silence. Then, soft tapping. At first, I thought it was snow hitting the glass, but it was too rhythmic, too deliberate. Something was walking around the vehicle, dragging its fingers along the metal siding. Troy whispered, "Don't move." But curiosity killed him. He turned on his flashlight. The beam caught a face pressed against the window. Pale skin, dark eyes, mouth open wide. Not screaming, not breathing, just open, then it was gone. We stayed that way until morning. When light finally came, the world outside looked normal again. Just snow, trees, silence. We got the engine running and drove straight back to base. When we reported it, the supervisors chalked it up to exhaustion and light refraction from the aurora. They sent a follow-up team the next day. None of them came back. 2 days later, the state officially declared Talkeetna Ridge uninhabited. The name was scrubbed from maps. And every time someone tries to repopulate the area, they vanish too. Last week I received a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a small black box recorder, the kind used in emergency vehicles. It was ours. From that night I played it. At first, just static, then a faint voice. Lena's, "We're leaving now." Oh my God, look at them, screaming. Then the same hum, low, pulsing, and underneath it, another voice, mine, "Don't look up." The file ends there now. Every night around 3:11 a.m., I wake up to a faint glow outside my window. It's always facing north. I've moved 3 times since that night. Doesn't matter. The glow follows. And sometimes when I close my eyes, I hear that same hum beneath my bed, faint, patient, waiting. Last night, I finally looked. The lights were there again, swirling green and violet, moving too fast, too alive, and for just a moment, I thought I saw faces in them, 27, all staring down, all whispering in perfect unison, "You shouldn't have looked." The first time I saw her, she was standing barefoot in the snow. It was 27 degrees, and she didn't look cold. I was on assignment photographing the northern lights near Fairbanks for a travel magazine. I'd been out for hours already, alone, half frozen, with nothing but the whisper of wind and the crunch of my boots to keep me company. The aurora was weak that night, a faint green ribbon low on the horizon. My tripod was set, camera ready, breath freezing into tiny crystals as I adjusted the focus. Then just as I clicked the shutter, a shadow crossed the lens. A person? I lowered the camera, confused. There shouldn't have been anyone out here. The road was 10 miles away, the last house even farther. But there she was, a little girl, maybe 9 or 10, standing at the edge of the clearing. White dress, barefoot, hair black as midnight. She smiled, and then she vanished. At first I thought it was exhaustion, or the cold, my eyes playing tricks. But when I checked the photo on my camera, she was there. Blurred slightly, like she'd moved mid-exposure, but unmistakably real. I zoomed in. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes reflected the aurora above, a shimmering green glow. I should have left right then. Packed up, driven back to town, deleted the photo, but something about her pulled at me. The stillness, the innocence, the way she didn't belong to the landscape yet somehow fit it perfectly. I told myself I'd go back the next night, just to see if she was real. When I returned, the aurora was stronger. Bright streaks of green and violet swirling across the sky like liquid fire. I hiked to the same clearing and waited. Midnight came. Then 1. Nothing. But at 1:17 a.m., my camera started clicking on its own. Not a glitch. The shutter physically moved. I froze, hands hovering above the tripod. The camera kept taking photos, one after another, the lens turning slightly as if tracking something. And then I saw her again. She was standing closer this time, and maybe 20 feet away, her head tilted slightly, as though curious. When I lifted the flashlight, she didn't move. The beam washed over her, and for a moment I thought I saw frost forming around her feet, not on top of the snow, but spreading from her. The flashlight flickered, went out. When it came back on, she was gone, but the footprints remained. I followed them, even though I knew I shouldn't. They led deeper into the forest, winding between the trees in perfect, even spacing. Too perfect. At the end of the trail was a small frozen pond, smooth as glass, glowing faintly green from the sky above. The prints stopped at the edge. I knelt down, brushing snow away, and saw something beneath the ice, and a shadow. Long hair, pale arms, a child's body. I stumbled back, heart slamming in my chest. The wind howled suddenly, lifting the snow into a spiral around me, and from within that sound I heard laughter. Soft, sweet, like a little girl's. Back at my cabin, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the images, zooming in, adjusting brightness. In the final shot, right before the flashlight died, there was something behind her, faint, like an outline. A tall figure standing among the trees. I hadn't seen it that night, but it was there. I checked the next frame, nothing. The one after, still nothing. Then the last one. The girl was gone. The tall figure wasn't. And this time, it wasn't in the trees. It was standing directly behind me. The next morning, I called the local ranger station. I tried to sound casual, asking if there had been any missing persons in the area. The ranger paused. "You camping near the old Miller Trail?" "Yeah," I said. He exhaled hard. "You didn't go near the pond, did you?" My throat went dry. "Maybe. Why?" Long silence. "Then don't go back there. If you know what's good for you, pack up and leave." Before I could ask why, he hung up, but I didn't leave. I couldn't. Something about that photo, that thing standing behind me, felt like unfinished business. That night, the aurora was so bright it lit the snow like daylight. I set up the camera again, this time closer to the cabin, pointed north. Nothing for the first hour. Then, at exactly 3:11 a.m., the same time frozen on every clock in Talkeetna Ridge, the radio inside my cabin turned on. It was an old unit, one I hadn't touched since I arrived. Static hissed for a few seconds, then a voice came through. A girl's voice. "Why did you take my picture?" I froze. The door creaked open behind me. Slow, deliberate. When I turned, she was standing in the doorway, Her dress was soaked now, dripping onto the wooden floor. Her skin shimmered faintly, light pulsing beneath it like veins made of frost. "I wanted to see you again," I said. Without knowing why, she smiled. Small, sad. "You shouldn't have looked." Her voice echoed, not through the room but inside my head, like it bypassed sound completely. Then she lifted her hand. Frost crept across the floorboards, racing toward me. I stumbled back, grabbed the camera, and snapped a photo out of panic. The flash went off, and she screamed, not a sound of pain, but rage. The temperature dropped instantly. My breath turned solid in the air. Then the lights flickered and she was gone. I didn't sleep that night either. When dawn came, I checked the camera. The photo showed nothing but a blur of light, except for one thing. In the center of the frame, faint but clear, was a reflection. Not hers. Mine. But my reflection's eyes were glowing green. Over the next few days, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was light refraction. Maybe I was losing my mind from isolation and cold. But then strange things started happening. Every photo I took, of the trees, the cabin, even my own face, had her in it somewhere. Sometimes just a blur. Sometimes standing far in the background. Sometimes close enough that I could see the frost on her eyelashes. Once she was standing right behind me in the mirror, smiling. I decided to leave. I packed my gear, started the truck, but the engine wouldn't turn over. The battery was dead, though I'd replaced it a week ago. I went back inside to call for help. The radio was already on. This time the voice was different, older, deeper. A man's, "She doesn't want you to leave." I slammed the switch off, then I heard it again, not from the radio. From outside, a whisper carried by the wind, "Stay." I stepped to the window. The snow outside was untouched, except for a single trail of footprints leading toward the forest. Small ones. Barefoot. I don't know why I followed them again. Maybe because the air felt charged, electric, like the moment before lightning strikes. Maybe because some part of me already knew the truth. The prints led me back to the pond. It was glowing again, faintly green under the ice, and this time, I could see her clearly beneath the surface, floating, eyes open, hair waving in slow motion. When I knelt beside the edge, her mouth moved, soundless. I leaned closer. "Give it back." Her hand pressed against the ice from below, palm flat. Frost spread outward, forming a perfect circle around her hand. Something flickered in the corner of my eye. Movement. The tall figure again. Standing across the pond, I aimed my flashlight and froze. It wasn't one figure. It was dozens. Men, women, children, all standing still among the trees watching. Their eyes glowed the same green. I bolted for the cabin. The wind screamed through the trees, snow whipping around me in spirals. Behind me, I heard the crunch of footsteps, hundreds of them. When I reached the door, it was already open. Inside, the fire had gone out. Frost coated every wall, every window, and on the table sat my camera. It was on, the screen glowing faintly, cycling through photos on its own. Each one showed me, sleeping, eating, walking, from angles no one else could have taken. The timestamps were all from the past 3 nights, and in the last one, I wasn't alone. The girl was standing over me, her hand hovering just above my chest. Something cold touched the back of my neck. I spun. Nothing. But on the window, written in frost from the inside, was a sentence. "Give me my picture." I grabbed the camera and yanked the memory card out. "You want it? Fine," I shouted, my voice cracking in the cold. I opened the stove door, threw the card in, and watched it melt. For a second, everything went still. Then the house shuddered. The walls groaned. The frost patterns began to move, not melt. Move, curling and shifting like veins under skin. And in the center of the room, she appeared. She looked different now. Older, taller, her skin cracked with glowing lines of light. "You took something that wasn't yours," she whispered. "Now you're part of it." Before I could respond, the world tilted. The floor dissolved beneath me. I was falling, through ice, through light, through sound, then nothing. I woke up lying on the edge of the pond. The aurora above me was blinding. The snow around me was perfectly smooth. No footprints, no gear, no camera, just silence. When I stood, I saw my reflection in the ice, except it wasn't mine. The face staring back was younger, pale, eyes glowing faint green. The reflection smiled. Then it reached up, from inside the ice. I stumbled back, screaming, but my voice made no sound. The world was silent now, like sound didn't exist anymore. Only the lights moved, and somewhere inside that shifting glow, I saw her, standing beside my reflection holding my camera. She raised it slowly. The flash went off. They found my truck 3 weeks later. Engine frozen solid, keys still in the ignition. The cabin door was open, footprints leading out, then stopping, in the middle of the clearing. The camera was gone. But a new photo appeared, on the local weather site that same week, uploaded anonymously, showed the aurora over the Fairbanks Ridge. At first glance it looked normal, but if you zoom in you can see 2 figures standing side by side on the frozen pond. One is a small girl in a white dress, the other is holding a camera. The signal shouldn't have existed. That's what made me drive 2 hours through a blizzard at midnight. A ghost frequency blinking to life on an antenna that hadn't transmitted in nearly 40 years. My name's Ryan Holt, communications technician, Alaska State Network Division. I handle remote tower maintenance, mostly static checks and generator fuel runs. Routine stuff. But that night, dispatch flagged something strange. Unidentified emergency transmission from Tower 47B. Decommissioned 1987. They thought it was a glitch. I thought it was a prank. Until the second report came in. Signal repeats one word. Help. By the time I reached the site, the snow was falling sideways. Thick, angry sheets that made the headlights useless. The tower stood half buried in ice at the edge of an old airstrip, its red beacon light flickering faintly through the whiteout. I parked beside the service shack. The door was frozen shut, so I had to kick it open. The inside smelled like rust and old dust, the kind of air that hasn't been breathed in decades. I wiped frost off the main console. Dead. No power. But the radio light, the one marked active signal, now was glowing. I thought maybe it was cross-feed from another tower. Then I heard it. Help, a single voice. Weak, mechanical, looping every 30 seconds. I checked the receiver frequency, 144.1 MHz. Emergency band. I switched to manual, adjusted the gain, and the voice grew clearer. Help. Please, I'm still here. The timestamp blinking on the display said Jan 14, 1987. I don't scare easy, but something about that date crawled under my skin. The tower had been shut down that very year after an avalanche buried half the old airfield. The 2 operators on duty were presumed dead. Bodies never recovered. Their names were Michael and Ellis. And the voice on the radio, it was saying the name Ellis. Help me, Ellis. Please. It's cold. It's so cold, I stared at the speaker, frozen in place. Then slowly I turned the gain down into 0. The voice kept talking. I tried the generator. No response. Power lines were dead, yet the tower's beacon still pulsed above, steady and red. Snow pounded the roof. The metal creaked. Then 3 knocks, not from the door, from underneath the floor. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Another 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate. I knelt down and pressed my ear to the boards. Nothing but faint static bleeding from the tower's wiring, then a whisper. Ryan. I stumbled back so fast I hit the table. The radio crackled to life again. It's freezing, Ryan. Open the hatch. There was no hatch. The shack had 1 door, 1 window, and the maintenance trap that led to the power conduits. But I remembered something. The old blueprints I'd studied before leaving. Tower 47B had an underground relay bunker, sealed off after 87. The hatch must have been under the floor. Logic said it was impossible. No one could have survived down there for decades, but logic didn't explain how a powerless tower was transmitting an active signal from a date 4 decades old. I grabbed the crowbar from my truck and pried the floorboards loose. Beneath the warped wood was a metal hatch half covered in ice with a single handle. When I touched it, it was warm. The ladder went down about 12 feet into blackness. The air smelled like mold and cold metal. My flashlight beam jittered across corroded panels, tangled wires, and frost-coated equipment. The hum of static was louder down here, vibrating in the walls like a living thing. At the far end of the bunker sat an old console, lights faintly glowing. And next to it, a chair, Someone was sitting in it. The man was slumped forward, skin gray-blue, hands frozen to the desk. A headset hung loosely around his neck. I approached slowly. The tag on his jacket read Ellis. I swallowed hard, trying to make sense of it. If this was Ellis who'd been calling for help. Then the headset crackled. "Ryan, don't touch him." The voice came from the dead console. Michael's voice. I stepped back, scanning the walls. No speaker units, no secondary line, just the soft red light blinking on the transmitter. "He's still listening," the voice said. My flashlight flickered. The red light grew brighter, pulsing faster. Then Ellis's head twitched. At first I thought it was the air settling, but no, his neck jerked once, then again, then turned slightly toward me with a brittle crack. His mouth opened, dry, frozen, splitting at the corners. "It's so cold," he whispered. I ran. Halfway up the ladder, the radio in my jacket came alive with static. "Don't leave us." Then something grabbed my boot. Cold, solid, heavy. I kicked hard, metal scraping against metal, and pulled free. I slammed the hatch shut and dragged a cabinet over it. Heart slamming in my chest. The floor went silent. Then, one knock. From the inside, I radioed dispatch, stammering through the report. But they only caught half my words before the signal died. When I looked out the window, the snow had stopped. The world outside was still. Too still. Then the tower light changed. It had been red when I arrived. Now it was white, bright, blinding, and inside that light I saw movement. Shapes climbing the metal frame, dozens of them. I turned off every light, crouched low. The window glowed faintly from the tower outside. In its reflection, I could see them clearly now. Outlines of people frozen in climbing poses, their skin shining like glass, faces locked upward. And between the hums of the tower, faint words leaked through the static. "Help me, Ellis, help me. Ryan, it's cold." Each repetition layered on itself until it sounded like a crowd whispering the same sentence in unison. Then, the beacon cut out. Darkness swallowed everything, and in that darkness, something started tapping again, but not from under the floor this time, from the window. Slow, patient, tap, tap, tap. When I turned the flashlight on, the glass was covered in frost, and you're not from the cold outside, but from the inside out. Across it, written in shaky letters, "Open the hatch." I backed away, shaking my head. No, I'm not doing this. Then the generator, the one I'd sworn was dead, and roared to life. Lights flickered. Consoles beeped. The radio speaker screamed static before stabilizing into a voice. "He's waiting, Ryan. He never stopped transmitting." My hands were shaking as I switched frequencies. Each band was the same word repeated endlessly: "Help." I pulled out my phone to record it, but the screen flickered and went black. Then I noticed something I hadn't before. The tower logbook on the table, the one coated in frost, and wasn't empty. Pages had been flipped. Fresh ink glistened on the paper. The last entry read, Jan 14, 2025, Ryan Holt reporting. "Tower active. Ellis back online." I hadn't written that. The ink was still wet. The lights dimmed again. The air felt charged, buzzing against my skin like static electricity. The radio spoke once more, softer now. "Come down, Ryan, please, it's warmer now." My head spun. I could feel the warmth radiating from the hatch. It wasn't just heat. It was like the air itself was breathing. Against every instinct I had, I moved the cabinet aside. Steam rose from the seams of the hatch. When I touched it, it pulsed, like something underneath was alive. Then the handle turned. By itself, the hatch burst open. A gust of hot air slammed into me, smelling like ozone and burnt metal. The ladder below glowed faintly red, as if lit from beneath. I heard footsteps, slow, wet, climbing upward. I backed into the corner, radio clutched in my hand. "Ellis?" I whispered. The voice that answered wasn't his. "He's not Ellis anymore." A pale hand gripped the edge of the hatch, fingers frostbitten to the bone. Another followed. Then the head emerged, and not human anymore, not fully. The skin was translucent, eyes glowing faint white, mouth moving but sound coming through the radio instead of air. "You left me in the snow." I screamed and ran out into the storm. The blizzard had returned full force. I could barely see 10 feet ahead. Behind me, the tower blazed with white light, so bright it turned the snow into glass. My truck's engine roared as I jumped inside. I didn't look back until I hit the main road. The light was still visible miles away, a pillar piercing the clouds. Then, suddenly it went dark. The radio in my dash crackled. Transmission complete. And then silence. I made it back to base by dawn. When I told my supervisor, she looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Ryan, Tower 47B collapsed years ago, she said. The whole site was demolished in 1992. There's nothing there. I tried to protest, but when they checked the GPS logs, there were no coordinates recorded. My truck's tracker had gone blank between 11:52 p.m. and 4:06 a.m. They sent a recon team anyway. They found nothing. No tower, no shack, no airstrip, just a wide field of smooth, frozen glass. 3 nights later, I woke to a faint buzzing in my apartment. The sound of static. The digital clock on my nightstand was flickering, 1:44 a.m. Then the radio in the corner, one I hadn't used in years, turned on by itself. The signal was perfect. Clear. Tower 47B standing by. Transmission active. I unplugged it. It stayed on. The voice that came next was my own. Help me. Please, it's cold. They say the northern lights interfere with radio frequencies sometimes, that the magnetic storms can cause echoes, voices bouncing off the ionosphere from decades ago. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe. But when I checked the tower logbook the next day, the one locked in the office archive, a new entry had appeared. Dated today, Jan 14, 2025. Ellis reporting. Ryan still transmitting, and underneath it a note in handwriting I recognized as my own. Signal strong. Help received. Now every time I close my eyes I hear the hum, faint, steady, pulsing like a heartbeat. Sometimes in the middle of the night I catch myself whispering along with it, saying the same word over and over. I remember the silence before we lost the first man. It wasn't the normal kind of silence you get in a whiteout, the heavy, soft kind where the world is padded in snow. This was different. This silence listened back. We were 12 soldiers convoying north out of Anchorage with classified equipment, 5 transport trucks, 2 Humvees, and a mobile command unit. The destination was vague. Outpost Vega. No one had heard of it, not even the captain. We'd been told to expect 6 days of travel, clear skies, and low civilian contact. But by day 3, the weather turned violent. Temperatures dropped to 40 degrees. The GPS systems froze. The wind made the truck shudder like something alive was pressing against the metal. When we stopped to refuel, Sergeant Morris said something I still can't get out of my head. He looked out at the snow and muttered, "There's something out there. It's pacing us." We laughed it off. Every convoy has its paranoia guy. But he wasn't wrong. The storm hit full force around midnight. Whiteout, zero visibility. We crawled forward at 10 miles per hour until the lead driver, Jensen, called it. "We're stopping. No sense driving blind." We parked in formation. Trucks in a line, lights dimmed, engines idling low to keep them from freezing. The command unit stayed in the middle. Me inside with the captain and 2 radio techs. I remember the hum of the heaters, the crackle of static on the comms, the soft whine of the wind trying to squeeze through the seams of the metal. Outside, the soldiers were checking the perimeter. Visibility was so bad they tied ropes between trucks just to find their way back. That's when Morris came over the channel. "Captain, we've got movement." The captain frowned. "Elaborate." "I don't know, sir. Big, too big to be a man." About 30 meters out. Standing still, Jensen chimed in from the lead truck, nervous. "Could be a snowdrift." "No, sir. It's moving." Then, a burst of static. It's silence. We tried calling him back. Nothing. The captain ordered 2 men to check his position. I went with them. The rope between trucks was our lifeline, a thick yellow cable looped through our belts. We followed it through the blizzard, the wind screaming so loud it felt like a living thing howling to drown our voices. When we reached Morris's last location, the rope ended, frayed and cut clean. His rifle lay in the snow. No prints, no blood. Nothing but a shallow depression where he'd been standing. The snow there looked melted. I've seen men torn apart by mortars, buried alive in landslides, but I've never seen snow melt in negative 40 degrees. We went back to the convoy. The captain didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, "We hold position until morning." No one argued. We rotated guard shifts. The rest tried to sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard tapping on the side of the truck, soft, rhythmic, like someone brushing their fingers along the metal. Around 3 a.m., Jensen radioed from the front. "Sir, my engine just died. Try restarting." "Already did. It's like the battery's drained." Wait, hold on, a burst of static. Then faintly, "There's someone outside." The channel cut. I volunteered to check. The captain didn't stop me. Maybe he was scared too. The rope was gone, buried under fresh snow, so I marked my path with glow sticks. The storm had eased a little, enough to see vague shapes. Jensen's truck loomed ahead, half buried in drifts. His headlights flickered weakly. I banged on the door. "Jensen, you in there?" No answer. I climbed up and pulled the latch. The door swung open. The driver's seat was empty, but the engine was running again. And the radio inside. Jensen's radio was whispering softly, "Don't look outside." I froze. Then the whisper changed. "You already did." I don't remember running back. Just the cold burning my face, my heart slamming in my chest. When I reached the command unit, the captain was already on the floor holding the receiver. "Where's Jensen?" He barked. "Gone," I said. He looked at me like I'd brought the cold back with me. Then the heaters died. The temperature dropped fast. So fast the glass frosted over in seconds. We scrambled to light emergency burners, but the air itself felt heavy, like breathing inside a freezer. Then came the sound again. The tapping. Not random this time. A pattern. 3 taps, pause, 3 more. Like Morse code. The captain, desperate for control, scribbled notes trying to decode it. His hands shook. "It's repeating," he said. 332. Our comm-tech whispered. "That's SSI." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" The tech swallowed. "Sir, it's a distress code." "It means still someone inside." We all stared at the walls. The tapping continued. At dawn, the storm broke. The world outside was a blank sheet of light. No horizon, no shadows, just white. The trucks were half buried. 2 were gone completely, swallowed by drifts that hadn't been there last night. We dug for hours, searching for the missing men. Nothing. No equipment. No bodies. But under the snow, we found something else. A tunnel. Wide enough for a man to crawl through, smooth as glass, leading down at a shallow angle. The captain looked at me. "You first?" The air inside the tunnel was strangely warm. My flashlight beam shimmered on the walls, not ice exactly, more like translucent crystal. I crawled about 15 feet before the tunnel opened into a chamber. The floor was covered in frost, but beneath it, something moved, slowly, like a shadow trapped under glass. Then I heard breathing, not mine. "Heavy ragged, Jensen?" I whispered. A shape shifted in the dark. A man crouched against the far wall. His face was half covered in frost, but his eyes moved when my light hit him. He opened his mouth. "Don't wake them." Then he collapsed. We hauled him out. His skin was ice cold, but his pulse faintly there. He was alive, barely. When he woke hours later, he wouldn't stop muttering. "They're under us. They're listening. Don't run the engines. They'll find us." When we asked who they were, he started screaming. The captain sedated him. But before he went under, he said one last thing, clear, quiet. Like he'd been waiting to say it. We shouldn't have followed the lights. That night, we saw them too. At first I thought it was aurora, faint ribbons shimmering low to the ground. But the colors were wrong. Pale white and amber, flickering close to the snow like reflections on water. They moved slowly around the trucks, circling, never touching, just gliding. Private Harlow whispered, "What the hell are those?" The captain didn't answer. One of the lights drifted closer, brushing against a truck's metal siding. The engine roared to life by itself. Jensen, delirious, started laughing in the back seat of the command unit. "See, they know us now." Then the light vanished. The engine died, and a voice whispered through the intercom, "Help." It was Morris's voice. We shut the power off completely, hoping it would stop. But even in the dark, the lights remained, hovering, flickering, sometimes pulsing faintly like heartbeat rhythms in the snow. They didn't cast heat. They didn't melt the ground. But when one passed close, the air shimmered like glass. At 2:17 a.m., Harlow went missing. One moment he was standing guard, the next, gone. His rifle lay on the snow, barrel still warm. The captain finally broke. "We're moving out," he said. "Now. We'll take only what we can carry." We started the trucks, forcing the engines despite the cold. 3 started. 2 didn't as we pulled away. The snow behind us began to move, rising, shifting, like something enormous was crawling just beneath the surface. Then, as we reached open ground, the last truck in the convoy went dark. We turned just in time to see it sink, straight down, swallowed whole into the snow. No explosion, no sound, just gone. The captain ordered full radio silence. No lights, no signals. We drove through the storm until dawn. By the time we stopped, we were 5 men left. The GPS showed nothing but blank space. We'd gone off the map. I checked the coordinates manually, but the system glitched. Numbers rearranging themselves until they read something impossible. Lat 6134 and long, 1987, Sousindi, the same year as the radio tower incident. The captain tried to keep it together, but something in him cracked. He started whispering orders that didn't make sense. "Circle the wagons, don't turn west. They come from west." He kept staring at the snow like he was waiting for it to answer. At one point, he looked right at me and said, "They're not human. Holt, don't call them that. They were here before the snow." I didn't ask what that meant. That night, we lost the radios, not broke. Lost every device we had, every headset, every mic, gone, vanished, even the wiring, and the snow outside wasn't white anymore. It shimmered faintly, like light trapped beneath it. We made a plan. 1 more day north, then turn back. But morning never came. The sky stayed black, the air heavy and silent. The compass spun uselessly. Jensen, still half out of his mind, started crying. "They're not lights," he said. "They're eyes." I didn't believe him. Not until I looked. In the distance, where the lights floated, I could see faint outlines. Tall, thin, humanoid shapes. Each one glowing faintly from the inside. Watching. The captain ordered us inside the trucks. "Don't look out. Don't answer if they speak." None of us laughed this time. Hours passed. Maybe days. Time didn't work right anymore. The air felt thick, heavy. The lights never faded. Then one of them spoke, not aloud. Inside my head, a voice that sounded like mine. "You don't belong here." I clamped my hands over my ears, shaking, whispering to myself. But the voice just grew louder. "You brought them here." I screamed for it to stop. When I opened my eyes again, the storm was gone. No wind, no snow, not even cold. Just a still gray light spreading over the frozen plain like dawn that didn't move. My breath didn't fog anymore, and the air tasted like static. The trucks were gone. Every single one. The ground where they'd been parked was smooth, hard, polished like ice turned to glass. I could see my reflection in it. Except it wasn't a reflection. It blinked when I didn't. I stumbled back. My voice cracked the quiet. "Hello?" The echo came late, too late. It repeated my words perfectly. Same tone, same rhythm, but a few seconds behind, like someone standing underground was answering. Then came the sound of engines again. Faint, far away, and a voice, the captain's voice, and whispering over the radio I didn't have anymore. "Don't let them in." The light shifted, dimming slightly. Across the plain, maybe 200 yards out, stood the other convoy. The mirror one. Same truck, same arrangement. Only this time the people were visible, or what used to be them. They stood beside the trucks in perfect formation. Their bodies were coated in frost, faces white and smooth like porcelain masks. Their eyes glowed faintly amber, pulsing in rhythm, all together like a heartbeat. When I took one step forward, they turned their heads. All at once. Then, in a single motion, they raised their hands and pointed. Down. The ground under my boots shuddered. A crack split open between me and them, stretching wide until I saw what was below. Not rock, not ice, glass, and beneath it, movement. Hundreds of shapes swimming slowly through the frozen layers like figures trapped between worlds. Men, women, children. Faces twisted in sleep or terror, mouths open as if mid-breath. One of them drifted close enough for me to see clearly. It was Jensen. I ran. I didn't know where to. Just ran, boots slamming on the slick ground until my lungs ached. The horizon never changed. No landmarks, no mountains, no trees. Just endless white. After what felt like hours, I collapsed beside what looked like a snow ridge, the only raised thing for miles. I scraped at it with my gloves until I hit metal. A door, half buried, marked with an old military emblem, the same one from our convoy manifests. Stenciled beside it in red paint were the words Outpost Vega. The handle was frozen, but it turned after a few kicks. The door swung inward with a sigh, releasing a gust of warm, stale air that smelled like rust and ozone. Inside was a narrow tunnel lit by flickering emergency lights. I stepped in, half expecting alarms or guards. Nothing. The deeper I went, the warmer it got. The walls were sweating condensation, the air vibrating with a faint electrical hum. At the end of the corridor was a bulkhead door. Above it, a sign read, "Transmission Corps Authorized Personnel Only." I pushed it open. The room beyond was enormous. Rows of old servers lined the walls, covered in frost, lights blinking faintly. In the center stood a massive cylindrical chamber, humming low, cables running into the floor like veins. And beside it, sitting in a chair, was the captain. His eyes were open, unfocused, staring straight ahead. His skin was pale, thin, stretched tight like parchment. When I touched his shoulder, it crumbled, skin flaking to ash, falling apart like frozen dust. But his mouth moved. Still. Someone inside. Then I realized he wasn't talking. The words were coming from the room itself, through the hum, through the air. A monitor flickered to life beside me. Lines of text scrolled across the screen. Project Vega, Signal Recovery Protocol active source, Alaska Convoy, 1987, transmission continues. I stared, heartbeat thudding in my throat, 87 again. The same year. The same word from the radio tower logs. I typed into the console, end transmission. The cursor blinked. Then new text appeared, transmission cannot end. Transmission is you. The floor beneath me glowed faintly. For the first time, I noticed the clear panels under the console, like reinforced glass. Beneath them, faint shapes moved in the light. Dozens of bodies, mine preserved, weightless, suspended in some kind of fluid ice, faces pressed upward as though reaching for the surface. My reflection stared back from the glass only. My eyes glowed faint amber. Then the radio in my ear, the one I didn't have, whispered again, "Welcome back, Sergeant Holt." I turned. Standing by the far wall was a man in a frost-covered uniform. His face was half gone, features eaten away by cold. "Morris." He smiled. "We finished the transmission." I backed away, shaking my head. "You're dead." He nodded slowly. "We were. Then we found the signal." "What signal?" He tilted his head. "The one that built this place. You heard it too, didn't you? In the snow." His voice was soft, almost kind. "It's not weather, Holt. It's not a storm. It's memory." Before I could speak, the air pulsed. The servers around us began to hum louder, each screen lighting up with strings of code that crawled like worms. Receiving. 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 Morris turned his eyes upward. "They're waking up." The lights cut out. The hum deepened into a single chest-rattling vibration. Then the glass floor cracked. Fluid began to rise through the fissures, clear, viscous, glowing faintly white. It pooled around my boots, freezing instantly. From beneath the glass, one of the figures pressed upward. A man's face, mouth open in a scream. Then another. And another. Hands reached out, frozen mid-motion, clawing at the surface. Morris didn't move. He just whispered, "We are the transmission now." The chamber in the center split open like a seed pod. A blinding column of light shot upward, piercing through the ceiling, through the ice above. I threw my arm up, shielding my eyes. Inside the light were shapes, silhouettes of people moving, forming, merging. One of them looked like the captain. Another looked like me. The light dimmed. The room was quiet again, except for the whisper of static leaking from the monitors. A message appeared on every screen, simultaneously. Outpost Vega status, online active transmitter count. One user, R. Holt, then a final line, still someone inside. I ran. The corridor behind me was longer than before, stretching impossibly far. Every few feet the walls flickered, showing flashes of the outside world. The convoy buried in snow, the frozen faces of my men, Jensen staring through the glass. Each image shifted as I passed, like I was walking through layers of film, each one replaying a different version of the same moment. At the far end of the tunnel, the exit door pulsed faintly. When I reached it, I looked back. The facility was gone. Just endless black behind me. I pushed through. Outside, the storm had returned, but different. The snow didn't fall, it rose, lifting from the ground in slow spirals, drawn upward into the light column bursting from beneath the ice. The trucks were there again, arranged neatly in a circle around the fissure. Engines idling, headlights on, and inside each truck, through the fogged glass, I saw them, my crew, alive, smiling. I staggered toward them, shouting names. Harlow, Morris, Jensen, each one turned, faces expressionless but alive. The captain stood outside the lead truck, saluting. "Holt," he said calmly. "You came back, good," I stopped. "Captain, we need to leave." Whatever this is, it's alive down there," he nodded. "Yes, it is. And so are we." "What are you talking about?" He smiled faintly, teeth rimed in frost. "You still think we're outside it." Behind him, the ground split again, a perfect circle forming around the convoy. Beneath the glass, the same glowing figures moved, only now they were climbing, slowly, deliberately. I turned to run, but every direction was the same. The horizon had folded inward, the world looping like a photograph bent around me. The captain stepped closer, his voice calm and distant. We transmitted ourselves to survive. The storm wasn't a storm, Holt, it was the carrier wave. He touched my shoulder. His hand burned cold, freezing through the fabric. "Now it's your turn." My vision blurred. The world trembled. I felt a pulling sensation deep inside, like my body was being stretched through static. Then everything went white again. When color returned, I was standing beside the trucks. The men were gone. The engine still idled, steady and slow. The radio on the dash crackled. "Convoy 47, this is Vega Command. Do you copy?" I grabbed the mic. "This is Holt. I'm alive. I need evac." Static. Then my own voice came through, distorted, looping. "Convoy 47, this is Vega Command. Do you copy?" "This is Holt. I'm alive. I need evac." Then again, and again, until the two voices blended into one endless feedback of myself calling for help. I climbed out. The air was perfectly still. The snow glowed faintly beneath my boots, rippling like liquid light. In the distance, the other convoy appeared again, the mirror one, rolling toward me slowly, silently, headlights cutting through the fog. As it neared, I saw my own face behind the wheel. Then the voice returned, low, soft, filling the air around me. Still someone inside. The convoy stopped 20 feet away. My reflection stepped out. He was identical, same uniform, same scars, same breath fogging faintly. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Neither should you." He smiled. "I'm not." Then he raised his hand and every truck light flicked on at once. The glare swallowed me whole. When it faded, I was back inside the command unit. The radio hummed softly. A clock on the wall ticked steadily. 3:11 a.m. Through the frosted windshield, I could see the others outside, moving between trucks, laughing, talking, normal. The captain stuck his head in the door. "You good, Holt?" I blinked. "Yeah, just tired." He nodded. "You'll get used to it." He left. I sat there staring at the frost patterns on the window. They pulsed faintly, rhythmic, alive. The hum in the radio matched the beat of my heart. The first thing I noticed was the sound, low, pulsing like a heartbeat trapped inside the ice. It started 2 days after we arrived at the Denali research site, deep in the Alaskan interior. We were a small glaciology team from the University of Washington, hired to conduct seismic drilling for the U.S. Geological Survey. The project brief was simple: record subglacial acoustic patterns beneath an uncharted section of the Denali Glacier. But the longer we stayed, the more it felt like the glacier was studying us. Our base camp sat on a shelf of ice so thick the ground below was unknown. The satellite topography showed a void, an anomaly roughly 2 miles wide and a quarter-mile deep. No data, no readings, just black. My job was simple: monitor seismic vibrations. I'd worked in Greenland before, spent winters in Svalbard, even slept through a blizzard in a tent that froze shut. But nothing there ever made me feel like this place did, like we weren't alone. The first night, as I logged the initial readings, the sensors picked up something strange, a rhythmic thump deep beneath the ice. Too regular for ice calving, too slow for tectonic movement. Thump, 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 like a pulse. I told Dr. Harris, the expedition lead. He laughed. Probably thermal expansion. Ice has a way of sounding alive. But that night, it got louder. By the second day, everyone had noticed. The vibration ran through the floor of the camp, subtle but constant. You could feel it in your ribs if you stayed still long enough. We recalibrated every instrument. Everything worked perfectly, but the readings made no sense. Depth scan, 1,680 meters. Amplitude, increasing steadily. Frequency pattern, repeating every 88 seconds. It wasn't random, it was structured. Something beneath the glacier was moving in intervals. At first, we thought it might be a pressurized magma vent, but this region had no volcanic history. Then Harris suggested a subglacial lake collapsing. But lakes don't pulse for days. The only one who didn't try to rationalize it was Mara, our youngest geophysicist. She was quiet, intense, always staring at the ice like she could hear something we couldn't. That evening, she approached me at the generator hut. "You hear it too, right?" I hesitated. "The vibration?" She shook her head. "No. The breathing." That night, none of us slept. The sound grew louder, closer. The tent poles trembled softly. The ice beneath my cot felt warm to the touch. At 3:11 a.m., the same time stamped across every strange Alaskan case file I'd ever read, the power flickered out. The camp lights dimmed to black, and the generator shut down completely. From outside, something cracked. Not a sharp ice fracture, more like a sigh. A long exhale that rippled across the glacier and made the air itself vibrate. Then the wind picked up, carrying with it a sound that didn't belong to the weather. A voice, soft, wordless, singing. When morning came, Harris decided we'd lower the drill earlier than scheduled. "We'll get a sample, record the acoustic layer, and go home," he said. But his hands shook when he said it. We drilled for hours, a steel auger descending meter by meter, breaking through ice older than civilization. Around the 1,500-meter mark, the sound spiked. The drill shuddered. The steel cable screamed like something alive. Then the line went slack. We hit a void. The pressure sensors went insane, dropping to 0, then spiking off scale. The seismic monitors recorded a single, enormous waveform, perfectly symmetrical. Thump. The glacier shook. Then, silence. Mara was the first to climb down the borehole, against orders. She clipped into the descent line, flashlight trembling in her hand. "I just want to see," she said. We argued, but she was already lowering herself, her voice echoing faintly from below. At 50 feet, she stopped. "There's something down here." Harris leaned over the edge. "What do you see?" No answer. "Mara, respond." Her voice came through the radio, soft, distant, wrong. "It's looking back." Then the line jerked once, twice, and went dead. We pulled the winch. The rope came up slick with frost and blood, no body, just her recorder, still attached to the harness. We played it back in the tent, static, cracks, then her voice, whispering between bursts of interference. "It's hollow down here. There's light. It's warm. It's breathing." Then, a sound. Low, deep, organic, like something enormous shifting beneath her feet. "Oh God, it's opening." The recording ended there. Harris ordered immediate evacuation. We packed within an hour. The sky had turned gray-green, the air thick and heavy. The helicopters were due at dawn, but the glacier had other plans. That night, the ice moved. You could hear it stretching, a low groan rising from below, so loud it drowned out the wind. The floor tilted, Cracks raced across the surface like lightning, splitting tents in half. Then something burst upward through the snow, a geyser of steam and vapor that reeked of metal and decay, and inside that steam, faintly glowing, was light. Pale amber, pulsing in rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. We fell back to the ridge, watching as a crater opened where the drill had been. The light spilled from it, flickering like bioluminescence underwater. The captain whispered, "Is that lava?" "No," Harris said. "That's something else." And then we saw it. A shape moving under the ice. Huge. Slow. The size of a mountain. The surface bulged, cracked, froze again. Each time it shifted, the air pressure changed, like the glacier itself was exhaling. When it stopped, a deep silence followed, so deep it pressed against our skulls. Then faintly through the stillness came a whisper. Cold. Cold. We ran. Half our equipment was left behind. The ridge was unstable, cracking under our weight. We reached the old ice tunnel, a natural cave leading to the base of the slope. Inside, the air was damp and warm. The walls glowed faintly, veins of amber light pulsing within the ice. That's when we realized it wasn't light, it was movement. Tiny filaments writhing slowly through the frozen walls like nerves under skin. Harris whispered, "We're inside it." The tunnel forked. Half the group went left. I stayed with Harris, following the right path toward the exit marker. The air grew hotter, wet with condensation. The walls dripped with melted ice, revealing shapes beneath the surface. Bones, tools, fragments of metal. One shape stopped me cold. A human face, perfectly preserved under the ice. Eyes open. Mara. Her expression was calm, peaceful, as if she'd been frozen mid-breath. Harris touched the wall. "We have to take a sample." Before I could stop him, he chipped at the ice with his hammer. The sound echoed like thunder. The entire glacier shuddered. A low, guttural moan rolled through the tunnel. The lights in the walls flared bright, amber bleeding into red. And from deep below came a single resonant sound. Thump. The floor cracked open. I woke up in darkness. My ears rang. My flashlight was gone. Harris was gone. The tunnel around me glowed faintly again, but not amber this time. Blue, cold, alive. I crawled forward, following the faint light ahead. The passage widened into a cavern so large my beam barely touched the far walls. In the center was a lake. The surface wasn't frozen. It shimmered like glass, reflecting the pulsing light from above. Floating in the center, half encased in translucent ice, was something I still can't describe. It wasn't human, or animal, or anything from this earth. It looked built. A shape of bone and metal intertwined, like a skeleton fused with machinery. Long limbs curled inward, ribs fused with cables, a chest cavity glowing faintly from within. Every few seconds, the glow pulsed. Thump, thump, and with every pulse, the ground above vibrated, matching the same rhythm we'd been hearing for days. I stood there shaking, the cold forgotten. My mind screamed to run, but my body didn't move. Then something rippled through the water. A shadow moved beneath the creature, vast, shifting, alive. And I realized with horror, the thing floating there wasn't it. It was only a part of it, a fragment. The real body was still below, buried miles deeper, and it was waking up. A voice filled the air, not through sound, through vibration. It spoke directly inside my skull. "Do you know where you are?" I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. What are you?" "We are what was left, frozen between your world and ours." The words weren't words anymore, more like feelings pressed into my brain, ancient and exhausted. "You broke the seal. The breath returns." The glow brightened, flooding the chamber. The ice cracked above, raining shards. I screamed, "What do you want?" "To remember." Then the water erupted. I woke again near the mouth of the cave. My ears rang. The glacier above thundered like an avalanche. Half the ridge was gone. The sky glowed red-green, a violent aurora twisting faster than natural light should move. The others, the few who made it out, were running across the ice field. Behind them, the crater where we'd drilled had widened into a yawning chasm. And from inside, light poured upward in pulses. Thump, thump, thump. It wasn't random. It was accelerating, the heartbeat of something ancient, something buried long before humans ever walked this land. I stumbled after them, screaming over the roar. "Where's Harris?" No one answered. Then I looked down and saw the frost spreading across my glove, not forming, but growing, crawling upward like veins. It wasn't cold anymore. It was alive. And from far behind me, inside the glow, I heard a voice, Harris's voice, faint and calm. "It's awake now." By morning, the sun hadn't risen. The horizon glowed faintly red, like fire trapped beneath the clouds. The others thought it was the aurora reflecting off ice crystals. But deep down I knew. It was coming from below. The glacier's heartbeat had become constant now, slow, steady, mechanical. The vibration shook snow loose from the cliffs, rippled through the air, pressed inside our chests until our bones felt hollow. There were only 4 of us left. Me, Callahan, Dr. Yu, and Ramirez. We tried the emergency satellite phone again, nothing but static. The batteries drained faster than physics allowed. Our watches froze at 3:11 a.m. and refused to move. That time again. Always 3:11. Like Alaska itself was stuck in that 1 minute we decided to move. Heading south toward the supply cache 10 kilometers away was our only option. The chopper would have landed there if it came at all. We walked in silence. The air had gone strange, dense, humming faintly like standing near high-voltage lines. Every few minutes the ground trembled softly, and I could hear faint groans echoing underfoot. It felt like we were walking on something's chest. Around noon, if you could call it that, we stopped to rest. Yu crouched beside the snow, frowning. "The crystals are wrong," she said. She scooped a handful of powder, holding it close. The flakes shimmered faintly, glowing from within. "They're not reflecting light," she whispered. "They're emitting it." We dropped them immediately. The glow spread through our gloves, faint but visible beneath the fabric. That was when Ramirez started coughing, a deep, ragged sound that ended in a scream. His breath came out glowing, and then he fell still. His skin crystallized before our eyes, veins turning pale, hardening into branching frost that crawled across his face. Within seconds, he was frozen solid, but his eyes still moved. "Jesus Christ," Callahan muttered. We stepped back. The body pulsed once, faintly, in rhythm with the glacier beneath us. Thump. Then the ice cracked, and he was gone, sucked straight down into the snow like it had swallowed him. No trace left behind. Yu whispered. "It's absorbing us." No one argued. We reached the cache site 6 hours later, or what was left of it. The tents were shredded. The metal crates twisted, melted around the edges. Every compass needle pointed downward, and at the center of the camp, half buried in frost, was something that hadn't been there before. A metal structure protruding from the ice. Smooth black, seamless, it looked almost grown, not built, like veins of steel erupting from beneath. Yu approached it, hand trembling. "This wasn't part of the glacier core sample. This is..." She stopped, because the metal was warm. She pressed her palm against it, and the structure pulsed. The sound that followed was deep enough to shake snow from the peaks. Thump. Then a second later, another, higher tone. Not organic this time, but mechanical, echoing the first like a response. Callahan stepped back. "That's not natural." Yu's eyes widened. "It's a transmitter." The metal began to move. Panels shifted soundlessly, folding and rotating until a circular opening formed in the center. A staircase descended into darkness, glowing faintly blue around the edges. We stared at each other. No one said it out loud, but the thought hit all of us at once. This wasn't a glacier, it was a shell, and whatever lay inside had just opened the door. We descended, because that's what humans do. We go where we shouldn't. The stairs vibrated under each step, warm and soft like something alive. The air grew thicker, denser, humming faintly with the same low rhythm we'd felt for days. After maybe 50 meters, the stairwell opened into a vast chamber. It was like standing inside the hollow chest of a machine the size of a mountain. Ribs of metal and ice curved high above, faintly translucent, with veins of light running through them. And at the center, suspended in the air, spinning slowly, was a sphere. Not metal. Not glass. Something between. It pulsed faint amber light with every beat of the glacier above. Inside the sphere, shapes moved. Humanoid Yu walked closer, her voice trembling. It's biological data. Preserved consciousness. Some kind of neural archive. Callahan frowned. You're saying it's alive? She nodded slowly. No, I'm saying it's remembering. The sphere pulsed brighter. Then a voice filled the chamber. You found us again. It wasn't sound. It was vibration through bone, through thought, an old voice layered with hundreds of others whispering together. We dreamed of warmth. You brought it back. We staggered, covering our ears, but there was no escaping it. Your kind walked above us before. You sealed us here when the sky burned, but the ice forgot your fear. The ground rippled. I fell to my knees, vision blurring. Please, I gasped. We didn't mean to wake you. We were never asleep. The chamber brightened until I couldn't see. The air roared, a hurricane trapped inside metal lungs. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't standing anymore. I was floating. Images flooded my head. Flashes of cities made of light beneath oceans of ice. Creatures vast and luminous moving between them. Human figures kneeling before them as teachers or gods. Then, chaos. Fire raining from the sky. The world tilting. The ice closing in like a coffin. The vision ended with a single phrase burned into my skull. We are still here. I woke lying on the floor. Callahan was beside me, shaking me awake. Yo was gone. The sphere pulsed faster now, erratic, the light no longer calm but strobing violently. What happened? I rasped. He pointed. The far wall had opened, revealing a tunnel of light leading downward like the inside of a vein. She went in, he said. She said it was calling her. I stared at the tunnel. We have to get her back, he shook his head. You didn't see her face. She wasn't her anymore. Then the floor shifted again, a long rising hum, followed by silence so deep it felt infinite. The heartbeat had stopped. We climbed back toward the surface, desperate for air, for distance. But when we reached the opening, the world above wasn't the same. The glacier was gone. The mountains had sunk into the horizon, replaced by black ice that stretched endlessly in every direction. The sky pulsed faintly red, veins of light twisting across the clouds and far away. The ground bulged upward, something massive moving beneath the surface. Callahan whispered, It's rising. We ran. The light followed. The ice cracked open behind us with a sound like thunder and bone breaking together. Steam exploded upward, glowing from within. And then I saw it, for the first time in its entirety. The glacier wasn't covering it. The glacier was it, a creature or machine, impossibly large, shaped like a twisted cathedral of bone and metal. It moved slowly, deliberately, shaking the world with every pulse of its body. Thousands of amber lights dotted its surface like eyes blinking open. The ice remembers. The voice came from everywhere at once. The wind, the ground inside my head. We carried your world once. You left us to sleep, but the sleep is over. Callahan fell to his knees, sobbing. We're not the same people. We didn't. You built us. You forgot us. The lights flared, blinding white. My vision filled with fragments. Glimpses of machines carving through ice, human figures in suits of glass, voices chanting in unison. Then the images shifted. Cities swallowed by snow, oceans freezing solid. The heartbeat slowing. It wasn't angry. It was remembering. You called us machines. But we were your memory. The ground trembled again. Callahan screamed, not from pain but from something deeper as his body began to glow from within. Light poured from his eyes, mouth, veins, turning his silhouette translucent. He looked at me one last time. It's showing me everything. Then he exploded into light. The shockwave knocked me backward. When I opened my eyes, he was gone. Nothing left but a perfect outline burned into the ice, and in that outline, faint pulses began to glow, syncing with the glacier's rhythm. The heartbeat had returned. I don't remember climbing out. I just remember the cold air hitting my face, the taste of metal in my mouth, the sky twisting in impossible colors. Everywhere I looked, the ice was splitting, long cracks racing across the horizon. The heartbeat grew louder, faster, until it merged into a constant rolling thunder. Then the voice again, softer this time, almost gentle. "We are not rising. You are falling." The ground gave way. When I woke, I was underwater. No, not water, light. It flowed around me like liquid, thick and weightless. I could see shapes drifting above, human shapes glowing faintly, floating upward through the current. One of them looked like you. Her face was calm, eyes closed, hands reaching for something above. A whisper brushed against me. "Come home." I kicked upward. The surface shimmered above. But no matter how hard I swam, it didn't get closer. Instead, I sank deeper, past shadows, past lights, into the heart of the thing beneath the glacier. And there, I saw it, the core, a vast chamber of crystal and bone, filled with thousands of suspended bodies, human, machine, both connected by threads of light, all breathing in unison, thump, thump, thump. I reached for one of the bodies, frozen mid-motion, eyes open, mouth slightly parted, met and realized it was me, perfectly preserved, expressionless. The realization hit me like a punch. I never left the glacier. I was still there, still lying somewhere in the ice, dreaming this. The voice returned, a whisper that felt like it came from inside my lungs. "You're not dreaming. You're remembering." When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the surface. The camp stood exactly as it had on the first day, tents pitched, generator humming, the drill idle. Mara was there, smiling. Harris too. Everyone alive, laughing like nothing had happened.